Again, I just introduce each of you. Sapna George, Executive Director, Trivandrum International School, Cochin International School, the Charter School. Welcome, Sapna.
Hi, Kartik. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sirish, Turlapati, Chairman and Managing Director of Iris Florets, Happy School, Hyderabad. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kartik. Thank you.
Yeah, then we have Amey, Parulekar, Head of Sales in Financepeer. Amey, welcome. Dr. Kavita, Dr. Kavita Bajpai, she's here, Director of the International School of Thrissur, from Thrissur. Dr. Kavita, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah, and then we have G. Santhosh Chary, Principal of Shree Swaminarayan Gurukul International School, Hyderabad.
Yeah, thank you all. It's my pleasure to attend this session with all the eminent leaders and organizers. Thank you all.
Thank you. So looking forward to a great discussion with you all for next 1 hour. So to start with this, as I mentioned earlier also, the topic is very significant in these current times, financial survival strategies amid crisis and emergent resource and implementations. So I will start with all of you to please give your perspective each in 2 to 3 minutes, so that then we can move on to the further questions and further discussions. So my first question will be, we all see that schools are still not open, and government is giving several decisions, and different things are happening, but at the end, schools are not opening, and teachers are a real problem. Parents have their own issues, and schools have their own issues, especially in terms of financial management. So I would like to ask each of you that what are your views in this current situation on this current topic. So I will start with Dr. Kavita Bajpai, Director of the International School of Thrissur. Kavita ji, please share your views on this.
Yeah, so once again, a very good afternoon, everyone. The question, what you said, the views about how especially the education segment is facing the challenges. So of course, during this global crisis, not even there is one segment or one industry or one fraternity which is unaffected, and certainly education is something which is mostly affected, because it deals not only with the particular age group, that is you can say, right, say 2 years onwards, but also there are many other factors which are associated with it. There are parents associated with it, there are educators associated with it, there are support staffs are associated with it, there are many other, like the stationery, the buses, the many hell lot of vendors are also associated. So it is, when a school is running, it is just not running a school. I think there are many houses which are running based upon that. So yes, this is a real challenging time, because schools have taken a hit. And there is this very strong hit, because of course those schools are not opening, children are not coming to the school, but it's not, I think in most of the cases, the efforts from the school sides are on. Yes, children are struggling. Sometimes they feel that, they don't have the resources, like they don't have the tabs or spare laptop or spare phone. So in some of the cases it is happening. But if we only talk about the private schools, so in most of the cases, children are equipped with it. They are trying to cope with it. But I would say here, the educators is one fraternity which is actually evolving. And this fraternity in particular is really putting best of its efforts. So when this fraternity is putting in the effort, so it clearly shows two things. One, the educators, they really want to teach, they really don't want this vacuum or this void to stay there. And second thing is, somewhere some kind of the comfort which has been provided by the school management, I'm talking about the private schools only, that is still keeping them motivated. But otherwise, if you feel that the situation is real bad, I heard the news when it was coming that there was a pay cut for the education, the educators, and there were many other things which were happening. But what I feel is, with time, yes, that was an ambiguity right in the beginning because the schools took an all-time big hit. But I think now schools are somehow trying to cope it. Now parents are also understanding, and to a great extent, the fee recovery is also happening. Teachers are also getting their due salaries. So a parallel system certainly started functioning. But if you say the hit is real big, because despite of all the efforts, working on ground, teaching on ground, learning on ground has a very different meaning altogether. So there is a hit, and there is a strong financial hit, that is very sure. Kartik, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. You actually stressed upon important points, and the situation is not very easy for all the stakeholders in school education. I'll move on to the next panelist, another lady in the session, Ms. Sapna George, Executive Director of Trivandrum International School, and Cochin International School and the Charter School. Sapna, what are your views?
Hi, Kartik. I just wanted to say that it's very important that we are talking about, financial management in terms of viability only. And I don't think, anyone starts a school with the intention of it being like a profit center or something like that. At least when we started our schools in Kerala, it has always been for a value add. And, anything that we make out of it is invested back into the school. So I think it's important to see that the strategies that come out of COVID, that we learn from COVID, is focused towards keeping the school just viable. And it's very important to see that in terms of, of course, fee collection is back on track, but paying our teachers in full, because the efforts that are going in right now are maybe more than ever before, because the biggest hit the schools have taken is in terms of the physical connect. And that is the foundation of education. Teachers get into the profession of teaching for that, to build that relationship with students. And that's the foundation of learning. And that has been stripped away from them completely. So the school needs to be supporting them in that sense, and giving them all the support, of course paying them, but also training them, and digital resources and whatever we can, sparing no efforts for the digital learning experience to be as engaging as possible.
Right. Thank you, Sapna. I would like to request Sirish Turlapati to share your views. You are chairman and managing director of Florets and the Happy Play School. So what is the financial survival mechanism for a play school? Because I don't think the children are joining the play school, or are they joining? Just wanted to know the current
situation. As my co-panelist said, this has affected across all industries, and education is no exception. And preschool is most affected, again, I can say, because that is the least segment. Probably it's going to be reopened after all the things, higher classes and primary and all those things. That is the least segment is going to open. So preschool is segment has affected very badly. And when the lockdown was announced all of a sudden in March 2020, that is again a hit for all the education fraternity. The third term phases of 2019-20 itself is not recovered. Even still, some schools are still struggling to recover those dues, and then there are no admissions, and then there was no clarity on conducting online classes, right from which age group that online classes has to start, and there are no guidelines from the central government or the local state governments. So in those situations, it was very tough time, but now things have slowly settling down. Now central government has given the clearly guidelines. Schools can start right from preschool with the limitations of let's say 30 to 40 minutes or 1 hour thrice in a week, something like that. They are given the guidelines according to the age group. So now the schools have started, even preschools have started the remote learning. We call it as a remote learning instead of online classes. It's a too big word for them. So ultimately the focus is like a child should not be deprived of the education. That is the ultimate motive. So we are trying our best, and we started on these classes, and then it's almost a month, more than a month we have successfully running the classes, and children are really enjoying the online classes, and they're eagerly waiting to see their teachers, and they're taking all those things. And parents are not even accompanying the children. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. The children are used to it now, and we are trying our best to introduce whatever is possible to do within our limitations. Like in schools, we used to do many activities, but then in virtual we cannot do all those things. So we are trying our best to introduce whatever is possible. Like we introduced recently the music also, with the Association of Potatoes Music School, and then recently we have introduced even PE classes. So we are tied up with one coach Guru UK, and we have started even PE classes in virtual. Those classes are going fantastically, and children are really enjoying it. That is what actually required, and we don't have any other choice now. We are not left with any other choice. We cannot open the schools. We cannot. Children cannot come to the schools. This is the only option, and I think this is the best option as of now in this situation.
That's right. Rightly mentioned, right points, and we have only one principal here in this session. But before I move on to him, there is one person who will represent industry here in this kind of discussion. And when this ecosystem of school education or preschool education is in a struggling, I would like to know from you, Mr. Amey. You are from Financepeer, and you deal with financial interactions of education institutions. So, from industry perspective, what will be your role in this scenario, and what are your views? Amey, Parulekar, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kartik sir. So yes, as far as most of the conversations that I've heard over here, and even with most of the parents or school owners that I interact with, it is a fairly grim picture, wherein most people understand that collection of the fees is basically what is the backbone of running an institution. So for us to go ahead and give that kind of quality of education to a child, for that definitely it does come at a cost. Like if you go to see, I studied in an SSC medium in one of the best schools of Mumbai. So my school back then had a hockey court, a football court, and a swimming pool as well. And my fee was as little as 500 rupees. But today, because the quality of the education has gone so far, we have floodlights, we have an astroturf ground. The fees are also somewhere on the lines of 70 to 80,000 rupees today per year. So for us to go ahead and match that quality, there is a certain price which is getting involved. But because of the entire COVID scenario, most of the things are definitely in array. Especially, I've heard that the Tamil Nadu government and the courts have asked them to collect 40% as advance now. So that's definitely a silver lining, some glimmer of hope that we are seeing here. But like Sapna ma'am also had mentioned right earlier, that one of the bigger factors here is going to be the fact that we need to start doing a little bit more as compared to what we were doing since so long. So this is we can take this as a great opportunity to train the staff, to train the faculty for new online and new and better methods of teaching. So most of the schools started off with Zoom, Google Class, but let's face it, these are mostly stopgap methods, and they're not as intuitive, nor are they as comprehensive as as native teaching methods. So going back to my school days, I always noticed that teachers used to come with a huge thappi of answer sheets, and she used to sit down in the class and she used to keep correcting that while she was teaching us. Uh, Today, with the advent of technology, if adopted correctly, these online tests can actually save all of this time for correction, where teachers are spending sleepless nights at home and understanding it. Along with it, some great products are actually giving you an insight about what are the likes of a student, what are the subjects that a student is liking, what are the subjects that a student is performing in. So basically, it gauges a child's aptitude just by the tests that a child is taking, right? So this is something that even we started. So we started with a lot of finance. Apart from the finance products, we also started with some edutech product, owing to our connections in the entire industry. So we have LMS softwares, we have ERP software, we have online learning programs, we have extracurricular programs like music, sports, etc. All of it put into one package called Financepeer ED. So whichever schools are opting for it, they get it for free. Along with that, even for other school owners, if they do not want to go for the free solution, they can check the number of options that we have over there, and it's available at a price which even the OEM or the creator of the product is not offering. Simply because it's just like Zomato. Take for instance, today if I want to order from say a McDonald's, it will be a little bit cheaper if I order from Zomato because I have offers and coupons. Similarly, we are trying to do the same. We're trying to bring in the school to a child's home because a child is not able to go to a school's home. So similarly, even in terms of refinancing, we are offering great rates. So that's as low as 2% in terms of interest, which can be borne by the parents or by the teacher or by the school. So this goes ahead and this opens a lot of horizons. It ensures that the school is getting the finance, because as soon as the schools are going to start, probably in the month of November, December, there is going to be an overhead of extra sanitation, of extra costs which will come with it, and all of these. So NBFCs are a great method to go ahead and offer these options to parents, because parents can pay us in EMIs and we can go ahead, we can give the working capital to the school owners. So yeah, so once again, those were my views.
Right. So a couple of interesting solutions from your side, and it's great to know about that. Uh, uh, but let's take once a principal's approach to this
Yeah.
issue and to this idea. I will request Mr. G. Santhosh Chary, principal of renowned school Shree Swaminarayan Gurukul International School in Hyderabad, to please share your views. Mr. G. Santhosh, please.
Yeah. To say, is it audible, Kartik?
Yeah, you are audible properly.
Kartik, is it audible? Yes.
Yes, perfectly.
So to say, yes. So this is not just a crisis. It's like a calamity or a disaster. Okay. So no human being has been expected this COVID and lockdown situations in the entire world. So the entire world has been shut down. And particularly to say, there are three categories has to be taken responsibility in the scenario of education. One is the government, second one is the school management, and the third one is parent community. So when these three categories cope with each other, definitely this crisis, the financial crisis, can be solved out. So first of all, to discuss about the government. So the private schools in India has been accommodating some 60% of children learning in the country. Means when the government is providing the free education to all the children, this is a burden. The 60% of burden, government burden, is shouldering by the private institutions. So when these private institutions have been taking such responsibility, the government has to be aided and be as a supportive to the private schools. So the government is not at all responding and is not properly responding to the private institutions, and some lakhs of teachers, those who are suffering. As Amey said, even the teachers could not able to sleep well. Okay. So they are completely in such depression, so that they cannot recover from the depression within a short period. Okay. So the next one, the programs like within this situation, a pension scheme during this crisis can also be provided by the government to the teachers, like a small pension, 5,000 or 10,000 accordingly, and even they can request the school owners, building owners. So many schools are running in even on a rent basis. So even they can request or guidelines should be given to the school rental, building rental owners to decrease or to make a half of the payment, to decrease it to the half rent. And the government can also provide the positive environment in the society. So, for example, the schools, whatever the importance the schools are playing, and how the schools could able to bring back their financial condition and all these things. And the government has to be, this is my opinion, purely my opinion. First of all, the government has to be concentrated on the competition in the educational market. Okay, so there were a lot of commercialization has been begun since decades together. Okay, So there are many corporates are competing and they're establishing a different schools and number of and multiple schools in different areas, and even the some a few corporates are also making it into the franchisee culture. Okay, so when these educational competition is increased, so particularly the schools are focusing on the budgetary aspects. So the commercialization of education has been perfectly purely encouraging in the market. So due to this commercialization of education, the parents is losing the confidence from the schools. So when the parents were not supporting this time to the school, so it is nothing but even the culture, the educational culture which we are following, the corporate culture or institutions or the other set of educational managements. So this is where the communication in between the parents and schools has been lacked. Okay. And the government can do that, they can limit the branches for corporates. It's not that corporates should be completely vanished. The government should have some limitations and regulatory factors in extending the corporate culture, and they can have some restrictions on the franchisee culture. Okay. And even though the schools has to be mind some basic ethics and morals in regard to the government regulations. Okay. So most of the schools are not properly following all the regulations which are instructing by the boards. For example, 25% of reservation will be given to the weaker section students. So I don't know how many schools are following this particular guideline and instruction. Okay. So when the school is preparing their annual budget or a rolling budget, they have to keep this in mind that 25% education should be provided to the weaker sections. So keeping this in mind when they prepare the budgetary aspect, this sort of damage cannot be. We can have some less damage compared to the present situation, and even the schools, most of the schools are lagging behind to communicate properly with the parents. Okay. For example, most of the parents have many doubts. It became a very common scenario in the entire country. The parent does not know what will be the status of their children's promotions. Means if this year declared as a zero session, the parents does not know that the children will be promoted to the higher classes in the coming year only. Okay. And the parents does not know about the free hike in the coming years, and the parents would not able to think about the sufferings of the teachers, those who are serving their children all these days. Okay. And this is the responsibility of the schools to convince the parents in a very proper communication. So even the schools as well as government has to be convince the parents in the prospect of safety measures, what safety measures they are going to take if the school starts. Okay. And the parents should also be think about the operational factors of the school. So what they get in the particular existing school, and what they miss when they shift it to the government schools in the present situation. Okay. So
Right.
if all these
Right.
categories like government and school management
Yes,
and
yes.
parents will work with each other,
Right.
definitely the finance can be solved.
Right, right, Mr. Santhosh. You actually, Mrs. Santhosh, stressed upon the role of government. And so, what is the role of government? How government can help these private schools? Dr. Kavita Bajpai, I would like to ask you on the same point. How do you see the role of government here, and your views on this, please?
See, when you talk about the role of government at this scenario, which was never ever expected by anyone, is or rather unforeseen kind. So, it cannot be on a set lines. It has to be evolved on a daily basis. It's going to be only the trial and error method. But certainly, what government has to do is what I feel, whether it is a central government or it is a state government, there has to be an understanding which has to be created between the schools and the government. I think that has been a big lacuna till date. I don't think so any of the school management has been approached by whether the state government or the central government when they wanted to hear them out. So probably this side of the education is totally unheard. Parents are complaining, educators are complaining, in the sense they are giving their views, educators are giving their views, how children are, facing these challenges, we all know. But school management, which is actually has the responsibility to run the show, I'm talking about the private schools, I don't think so there was any forum which has been given by the government where we are, supposed to give our views. And it's not only about giving our views. I think the brainstorming will certainly define or will bring out something which can be called as a solution. I mean, till date, I'm sorry to say, but I did not find anything which I can call as a solution. If solution you're talking about, the schools are trying to find out, the parents are trying to find out, educators are trying to evolve, children are trying to adjust, but there is no solution guideline which is coming. Rather, every day a new guideline comes in. Okay, the school will open in this manner on that date, this date, change it, new guideline. So that is happening, but there's no straight kind of the things are coming, because we are sitting in the education segment, which is not a very corporatish by nature. Right, we need to understand the need of the entire the ecosystem what has been surviving for ages, the parents, the educators, the school management, for the children. So when we look at, like, I was just listening to Mr. Santhosh, and when I was just listening to him about what should be the government role, then I was actually trying to connect like how other countries are doing. Like, I'll just give you example of 3 countries which I'm little closely in touch with, and being an educator, I'm trying to keep an eye like what exactly is happening there. So if you look at US has been very, very straight in saying that certain so and so amount will be given to the schools as a funding measures, right? And also the people who are the taxpayers, they are also getting certain amount, which is a kind of, it's a big support for them. Fine. Okay, let us say US is a developed country, the big daddy. Let us not compare with that. Let us not do. Let us come to the country like Hong Kong. Now, what Hong Kong has done it, they have set up a system where, suppose the schools which are running on a rental, or there are some other, logistics which are involved with the school, government is supporting them. Whether these are the bus services or the building owners, where government has said, okay, you have to bring down your rates to so and so percent, and the remaining amount will be supported or funded by the government. In Hong Kong, they are not funding it at one go, but at least they have given the written assurance, and this is happening. And the process has also started. Now look at Jakarta. I mean, I was just talking to someone in Jakarta. So Indonesia, we talk about, there the education minister have been very open while saying that there is a 60% of the funding which we always want you all to spend. I'm talking about the private schools, spend for the schools upliftment, schools infrastructure, and for the children welfare. You may cut down on that. So, the suggestions are coming from the government side. They are taking the entire community along. So what I feel, and again, I would say, I don't want to name it as a political view of mine, but what I'm trying to tell you is that whether it is a central government or a state government or this party or that party, I think the common understanding or the common, involvement of the school management is missing, where we can actually create a framework which can be certainly temporary in nature, but that should be executed. Like, I'll give the example of my own school. What we have done is, of course, like any other school, we also face the financial crisis, crunch, and especially being a new school. And international schools mean the standards you have to maintain. The parents are putting the children in your school. Certainly, you have told them something, and you have to live up to that expectations. Then, of course, we also had to deduct the fee, deduct the salary of the teachers for initially 2-3 months. So then what we did it, we have given them a written assurance that whatever amount is being deducted, this will be reverted to you, or this will be given to you as the arrear on your salary once the children will start coming to the school. So this is a very specific, and what I'm saying, it is a very general language what I'm using, but we have written a very a technical language. So even if we don't do it, anyone can challenge us. So basically what we did it within our school, we tried to bring in a solution. We tried to bring in to win the confidence of our educators, and because we don't deny the fact that the educators are stretching beyond their comfort zone. They are stretching beyond their limits. So deducting their salary was, again, that was something very disheartening for us also. But when we said this, and when we gradually we are starting the compensation also, we see that the faith what we have created, it is building on. we also bought some time from the educators. So the government can also do something like that. They can buy some time, but they can give us some guidelines. They can help us in any of the ways. So I think, because when we say like we have developed our own system, like Amey was talking about the technical, the revolution, and which is the need right now. And luckily, what we did it, we were already and we were endorsing the blended learning from the day one. So it has not become a very big challenge for us. Rather, what we have seen is, like, with our support, with our, the constant hand holding, we have seen there is a major phenomenal changes even in the teaching learning exercises. So this is happening. We are doing our bit. When educators are teaching, parents are around, they see, and they become a little critic by nature. Okay, this is how the teacher is teaching, this is, it should not be taught. Then I had to conduct a session where I had to tell them, please do not be a critic, be a critical thinker, because this is the need of the hour right now. And right now, what the status is, like, all our parent community, our teachers, everyone is coming along. But again, I'm going back to the basic thing, what I said. There was a formula which we have given as a school. We have requested parents to deposit the fee. We have given them the waiver. We have divided their fee into monthly basis. I said, okay, you give us on a monthly, like the AMI, or like the monthly basis. At least our monthly salary of the teachers will not be compromised. So I think that understanding is something which needs to be created, and which I feel, in my personal views, we are lacking. So a common platform is required where, any policy has to come in action.
Right, Dr. Kavita, you rightly said that if government involves itself, there should be proper involvement, because even education cannot be run in a bureaucratic way, because there is a difference in education sector from others. You're right. Then one question arises that is the problem, the solution is within, or should we like parents and school and educators, can they together solve this problem? Can they together help each other, cooperate with each other, and things can be better? So I would like to ask Ms. Sapnu about it. What do you think that can this solution be there if each of you, all the school, parents and educators can help each other and come out with some solution?
Yeah, Kartik, I completely agree, because each school is trying to fight their own battle. Like just now, Dr. Kavita spoke about a strategy that they had to think of, they had to solve. Another school is going to try out something else. And if all of this comes together, it will be helpful for everyone. So not really expecting help from the government for private schools, because they should be helping the government schools in whatever way possible, but providing a platform for schools to come together, to help, to contribute, to give suggestions to the government and help each other out, and formulate a framework for, reopening guidelines, how to finance better, help parents with flexible payment schedules, or try and, any savings that the school might have now, try and transferring that to the parents in some way, returning some of it to the parents, whatever it is, we're all trying to think of it ourselves individually, and we shouldn't have to do that. So I would say providing a platform, a voice, somewhere for private schools to be able to give their voice, because it cannot just come autocratically from the government, because they don't know what's happening on the ground. So I would say, getting everyone together is something that they can do, all the stakeholders, so that we hear all the issue from schools, from parents, teachers, and coming up with something where when we are back, we are all, where we left off, and not kind of struggling from the ground zero again. Like another very unexpected thing that the government did, which was helpful, was coming up with an NEP right now, which I thought was very much in keeping with, the education philosophy that is endorsed by international curricula across the world. And if we can open up that kind of, equip our children with all the skills required for a global arena like that, there's nothing like it, if they can implement that. So I thought the timing of this, the NEP was, coincidentally a good thing that happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a helpful thing that came from the government. But I do feel like another thing that they shouldn't be doing is saying things like, okay, we reopen like this, okay, 30%, okay, don't collect fees now, or pay your teachers only half. No, we can't come up with it like that where it's unidirectional. That's why I am again saying to just call us, just put us together in one forum, one platform, and I'm sure the best suggestions will come from the schools themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kartik, allow me to speak for 1 minute if you don't mind, because I would
Yes,
like to
please.
add something what Sapno has said. Yeah, I think we both have been talking on the same, I mean, from the same page. And also, in addition to that, what is one thing which had happened during this tough time of pandemic, that I think the understanding between the educators and the parents and the school management and the worth of the education, everything has taken a complete, a 360-degree turn, because now people are back to the time when people used to value the educators as well as the education. So I think this is the beautiful time, along with the NEP. This amalgamation can do wonders, but as I said in the beginning also, the need is to create a common platform to bring everyone together. And yeah, Kartik, I'm really sorry,
Yeah.
but you all have to allow me to exit, because there is something very important which I have to attend right away. So, but it was really, I was really enjoying the way you all were putting up all your views. So I'm sure the recording must be available. Sumit,
Yes, 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 yes.
Kartik, yeah.
It will be,
So
yes.
I'm going to miss being in this panel with so many, learned people are around. But you'll have to excuse me, because I have to attend something which really needs me.
I
So
understand, Dr. Kavita. You really shared great views, and thank you so much. We'll also miss
Thank you,
you
ma'am. Pleasure meeting you.
for now.
thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you all.
Yeah,
I'll be watching you all in your recorded session. Thank you.
Surely, surely.
Mr. Karthik, I would like to share two lines about the government role.
Yes, yes. Please,
Yeah,
please, Sirish.
yeah. When it comes to government role, under the Atmanirbhar scheme, central government has announced many packages to many industries, like for MSMEs, 20% of top-up loan or interest subsidy or collateral-free working capital loans, all those things. But when it comes to private schools, nothing is positive. So I request the government to make such things available to the even to the extent to the private schools as well, because this is also an important sector. And as Mr. Santhosh said, the 50%, more than 50% of the students are going to the private schools, and they are in trouble now. Private schools are in, especially private budget aided and unaided schools are in trouble now. So
Right, right.
government has to take some responsibility and extend these kind of facilities, whether providing collateral free loans to the institutions or some loans where they can pay off the salaries and run the show. That's, I just wanted to share that thing to you.
Right. That's really good, Mrs. Sirish. Amey, we see that Dr. Kavita spoke about how they are managing finances, how they are announcing waivers, and or they are planning the payment of their teachers and fees from the parents. Sirish also discussed on those points. Even Sapnu was talking about that. I would like to know from you that as a finance peer, a company, can you be a consultant of these schools and these institutions? Can you be their advisor, how to deal with this and how to manage the fees, and how can you help them more in this crisis?
Absolutely, Kartik. Firstly, us being an NBFC, right? We in fact have a lot of school owners who are on our panel because they help advise us as well. But according to me, schools already are very well equipped with their own accounts team, with their own C. They have a battery of CA teams and the legal advisors. So in terms of advisory, this thing I'm sure that they have already advised some of the best in the market, and they're already empaneled with them. But one of the things that we can suggest to the schools is that we can make tailor-made plans. We can make customized solutions for each school, because the requirement for every school is going to be very different. So it's not going to be a one size fit for all approach, because there are definitely going to be certain budget schools which would expect a certain amount to come in, because some of it is probably funded or aided by the government. There will be some private schools wherein they're extremely cash rich and they do not really need amounts upfront, and they can maybe give a longer stretch of EMIs. So these specific tailor-made plans is something that we will be more than happy to consult with schools. We'll be more than happy to give them solutions for it. So like some of the top schools have actually come up to me and told me, Amey, I've just got maybe 45% of collections during the COVID. Usually I get around 90. How do we go ahead? How do we curate something which is beneficial to parents. So accordingly, and based on that, we create solutions specifically for the school. So so that is in essence the beauty of it, because you cannot really have a one plan fit for all. And like a lot of the panelists over here mentioned, that it is not just the schooling industry, it is other industries also which are facing a huge struggle. So I live in Mumbai. There was a place I used to go for dinner for during the weekends called Mirchi and Mine. So the beauty of them was that they used to hire people only who were mute, who could not speak. They used to communicate with the patrons with sign language. It really broke my heart when I read in the papers that it is clear that it has closed. Last month they announced that they will be closing. So, right from all of the people who are employed over there. Similarly, there are other industries where people are employed and they are losing jobs. They have children who are going to these schools, and there has to be some kind of a safety net available for them. So that is just one way wherein we are trying to make things easy for them with insurance, with extra safety nets that we can add to them, and even custom plans where the parent does not have to pay a single penny of interest, and the school can just take an interest on themselves, which is as low as maybe 2.5%. So that way it's a win-win for everybody, and that's one of the very simplest of ways wherein we can work. Along with this, we are also looking at a lot of other channels as well. Most probably by next year, we should be able to launch something where we can help government funded schools as well. Because I've got so many, like the number of calls I receive from the government funded schools, which tell us that we are to receive a fund from the government, but we haven't got it today. We get it 8 months late, or maybe sometimes even a year and a half late. So for that much time, how do we survive? It's actually a question of survival every single day for
Yes.
these schools. So yes, depending on the volume of a school, depending on the requirements of a school, we can have tailor-made plans for them. And I think that is the best advice. And schools already have a great panel on board. They can share my proposal with the team. They can check it. We have zero hidden charges. We have no extra costs. I can guarantee you that. You can take that to the bank. So yes, that's the best way in which we can solve problems as of today.
Right. Thank you, Amey. Mr. Santhosh, you mentioned about government's role. That's fine, and but I think a principal is one person who is very closely connected to his teachers, and I would like to know from you that how you expect management, a school, to help the teachers, in facing this current crisis. Please throw some light on this.
Yes, Kartik. So first of all, the management has to understand the problems of the employee. So it may not be possible with all the management. So, for example, if this is a situation of crisis, the fees is not being paid by the parents. So, in the next session, if the schools reopen immediately within a short period of time, if the fees collections can be collected in a full-fledged manner, for example, like 90% or 80%, so can the management give compensation for the loss, the salary losses what the teachers are facing now? Okay, so that is one thing, and most of the means a few of the managements even were outrightly terminating the teachers in many schools. Okay, so I can say that it is not happening in my school, so that is the reason I'm gratefully bravely can speak. And the second thing, the very important thing is the schools. Most of the schools does not have the complete maintenance charges. For example, electricity bills and other charges is been declined. Okay, so it is decreased. The maintenance charges and the other expenditure of the schools has been decreased very much. So only the schools where they are running in a rent basis, they have to pay the rent, and the salaries will be paid to the employees. Okay. So if not the salaries, the teachers at most of the places is terminating with very with immoral methodology. Okay. So the schools has to be changing, or the school management has to be changing to that, or they have to transform into that ideology that the education industry is not a business. Okay, so the education industry have a lot more than the business. So they have to plan their annual budget as well as rolling budgets accordingly. Okay, so they have to follow all the guidelines and instructions given by the government. So if every school, if every management follows this sort of ethics and morals, definitely this crisis cannot be suffered in this severe situation. Okay.
Right.
So even I have been gone through that some of the schools where they are already making improving their business. They are taking this situation as an advantage. They are selling their laptops. They are selling iPads. Okay, they are selling the additional books to the parents. So this mentality shift, this mindset should be changed.
Right, Santhosh. I would like to ask you, Mr. Sirish, that okay, government may say that okay, from this date, let the students join the school, or oh, let's not allow schools to open till this date. This can happen, but what do you see that even if schools are open, will parents send their children, or what will happen? So, is there a need of more communication between school and parents, and how to bring back students? What is the strategy should be, Mr. Sirish?
Yeah, yeah. As I said, a few governments actually already announced that in September they are going to start the schools in India. But I don't think parents will send so soon. Maybe down the line after November, December, if vaccine comes or the virus itself getting down the severity and all. When probably post December, parents may think to send their children to schools when everything comes to normalcy. Otherwise, definitely parents are going to not send their children. As a parent, even I don't like my children to go to the schools or colleges because that situation is like that now. And other thing like when schools have continuously communicate with the parents and make them understand the situation. This is the situation now prevails in the country, or the whole world is facing the same situation. So we cannot have the physical schools maybe for the rest of the academic year. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But only option left with us is the online classes. So other things are like home schools. Those kind of things are also available, but majority schools can offer the online classes to the parents, and to make them understand the parents in such a way that we have to educate the parents in a way that this is not going to harm the children at all, because very limited hours the children are watching. Anyhow, children are already addicted to the gadgets like mobiles and TVs and other things. If we don't allow these at least 1 hour or 2 hours or so for this education, then it is going to be damage the children and the society as well in future for sure. That is the reason schools have to continuously in touch with the parents and educate them. There is a recent study says that about if for any new academic year, when a school reopens, a child comes to the school with about 66% learning gains in the reading and only 44% of learning gain in the math. That is the kind of situation that normally comes to the school. That is with a gap of hardly 2 months of summer vacation. But now with this kind of 6 months or 8 months or 1 year vacation time, if we allow the children not to come online with this study and all, and it's going to be a very tough time for the children. They cannot cope up so easily for the next academic year. That every parent has to cope up keep it in mind. Even with that stress also, all the children also, we cannot say that children are enjoying at home. Children are also under heavy pressure and stress they're feeling, because schools are not just for academic this thing. When they come to school and interact with the children, interact with the teacher, and they learn a lot of things, and when they chit chat, they chill out with the friends, peer group, that is the major stress buster for the children. That is not happening now. And even at home, they cannot go out now. They cannot go to theaters, they cannot go to malls, they cannot go to parks, or they cannot go to meet their friends. That is also not happening. So children are under a lot of pressure, except at home they're watching the mobile and TV, etc. They're not able to do anything, etc. They are already in stress. Stress is again the major reason for all these things. We have to keep all those things in mind. Schools and parents as well, both are should keep these things in mind, and then we have to come up with some solution to the children.
Right. You actually stressed upon a very important point, which is stress. And Miss Sapnu's camera is off. I don't know if she's there on screen or not. Okay.
Sorry.
So then what role can school play, as Mr. Sirish, stress is there in students. And at the same time, you have to give a message that education is as important as food for some person. So what is the role a school should play now, in terms of counseling the parents, counseling the children, at the same time when you are dealing with government? What will be the role of school, Ms. Sapna?
Thanks for the question, Kartik. I feel like we need to see school as not just an education provider, but it's really part of being a part of a bigger community, a larger body of people that care for you, and people the children are familiar with, people they were used to before all of this happened. And having that sense of normalcy that connects with the outside world, to that familiar world, is very important to keep them sane and to help with their emotional well-being. So it's not just the academic classes, it's also form lessons, counseling lessons, extracurricular classes, and just social sessions for meet and greet. It's very important to have sessions like that, and also for the staff to have those, just to catch up and to de-stress. And there are so many, going in and out of online meetings, online classes, collaborative meetings and planning sessions. It's exhausting, it's mentally draining, and everyone's doing this, managing families and managing, being homebound, and there's a lot of fatigue, there's a lot of mental and physical fatigue attached to that. So to counter that, I think it's very important to firstly, of course, provide counseling avenues for students and teachers, so that it's there, it's available, and also having checking in sessions of just and no agenda, no structure, just how you're doing, and for teachers for children to be able to hang out with each other, so that they have that this one other space which is theirs and theirs alone.
Right, right. So we are left with 5 minutes. So I will request all of you to give your closing remarks in 1 minute each on this topic: financial survival strategies amid crisis. I will start with Mr. Sirish. Your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, as I said earlier, like when it comes to the survival strategies, especially I'll talk about preschools because I'm more predominantly into preschooling, though we have primary and secondary schools and K-12 schools. For preschools, this is the hardest time now. And people are saying that about 25 to 30% of preschools are getting closed across India. And this is going to hardest time, and we have to come out with some solutions like this Financepeer. This is doing good, and we are associated with them, and doing fantastic job. They're not only they're providing this EMI option to the parents, and sometimes during the lockdown they offered even 2 months salary to the teachers as well. It's a good initiative. So those kind of initiative schools have to explore and extend the facility to the teachers, and just to survive this year. And this survival is very crucial the rest of the year. Once we cross this period, then again everything comes to normal. Then we should have that hope and then continue this academic year. We have to continuously in touch with the parents and give the best to the children as far as possible. That is the only option left with us now. Thank you, Mr. Kartik.
Thank you, Mrs. Surish. Amey, great to know about your good work from the clients itself, Mrs. Surish. I would like to know from you your closing remarks.
Absolutely. So yes, we are going ahead, and we are in fact, all of us, we're trying whatever is in our capacity to make things work. Like just a couple of days back, we were facing some issues where depression has started to seep in because children are confined in the house for an exceptionally long time. So similarly, we know that yes, we have certain mentors, we have certain stakeholders in the company. So that's why we had a session with the school where all of the school parents were a part of it, and where Mr. Vivek Oberoi spoke to them, encouraged them, and similarly. So basically, we are trying to go ahead and use everything which is in our capacity, no matter what, right from our investors, which is Google, to everyone to conduct workshops, to do something extra. Similarly, all of the other schools and all of the other education institutes, I'm sure all of us are trying our best, because this has been like probably the disaster of the century. Probably this is something that that our children or our grandchildren will be learning in their history books as well. So we too need to tide through this, and I'm sure we would see light at the end of the tunnel.
Great thoughts, Mr. Amey. Mr. Santhosh, quickly, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah. So this is the situation. Corona, COVID-19 is a eye-opening for every human being. So to prevent such conditions, to prevent such sufferings, so everyone should be in plan with futuristic aspirations. So we cannot guarantee that this is the end of this is the end of crisis. So we may also face some other crisis in a nearby future, or at any cost of time. So every school management and every decision taken by the government or regulation taken by the government should be pre-planned, at least by opening their eyes in the present situation. So the financial situation is very hard for everyone.
Right, you're right, and I think it will improve. And can I have your final remarks, Ms. Sapna?
Well, Kartik, I think we've covered everything, and the most important thing is that we need to be there for each other, and it's important that parents understand what is going behind the scenes, and how all the fixed expenses of the school remain, salaries remain, and appreciate what is going in engaging their children meaningfully. And similarly, the school understands and provides them with any flexibility in payment or extending deadlines, whatever that parents need at this time. That support is very important, and very clear and frequent communication to keep them updated about what's happening is also important, because this is unprecedented. Nobody knows what lies ahead, what's happening in the next month, forget about the next year. But we need to remember that we kind of spare no efforts in imparting what we need to with our children, because that's 1 year of their life, and we cannot say that, but it was COVID, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. If it's online, if it's virtual, so be it. We need to find a way to adapt and make it meaningful for them, just as we would have otherwise, and not compromise in any way.
Thank you. It was great discussion with all of you, and the message the discussion gives is that together we'll come out of it, and cooperation and collaboration will lead us to solve all the issues like this one. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Mr. Kartik. Pleasure.
Thank you,
Kartik.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And I thank everyone, every panelist. Thank you, Lord.